On today's show, Alex Ovechkin's future in the NHL, according to his wife. Next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the future of Connor McMichael and Martin Fehérváry. 2 big pieces within the Capitals organization that are due for a raise. Do the Capitals want to keep them in DC? I'll talk about that a bit later. I'll talk about Ivan Miroshnichenko, a player that's turning heads and is no doubt going to be fighting for a roster spot on the Capitals next season. Does he have what it takes? But just to get it going here, the conversation about Alex Ovechkin's future continues. In yesterday's show, I spoke about the rumors out there and how it was going to be Alex Ovechkin's final season in the 25-26 season. And then the Capitals PR department quickly shot that down after telling some season ticket holders that, in fact, it was going to be Alex Ovechkin's final year next season. And that kind of put a lid on everything. But then today, in various media sources, it was made public that Alex Ovechkin's wife said that next season will be Ovi's final season playing in the NHL. And listen here, I know that Ovechkin is a big man. I know he can make his own decisions. But got to know that if his wife is saying that you could put a lot of weight behind that. And it's not too surprising. If you are an everydayer of the show, or let's just say you listened to yesterday's show, that was my thoughts, exactly what she said. He has accomplished what he wants to accomplish, that the burden of chasing down Gretzky last season was not only difficult on Ovi, but it was difficult on Nastya herself. That I think that, again, he is his own person, but when you are married or you have a significant other, you want to value their opinion as well. And I think that Ovi values his wife's opinion, and I think she has the inside track of how he's thinking, if you can believe that. But let's dive into that in this first segment here. And I'm going to be talking about probably the biggest off-ice headline for the Capitals this summer. We know the Capitals got eliminated in the second round, and things were pretty quiet around the Capitals. And then there was this kind of rumbling underneath the surface about Alex Ovechkin and what the future is for him. And we know that next season is his final season under contract, but the question remained, would the Capitals try to sign him to an extension? And my thought on it is still as it is today. What does Alex Ovechkin have left to prove? He has caught and passed Wayne Gretzky. He won a Stanley Cup that I think it's just selfish fans at the end of the day that want to keep him around. And, I got to respect your opinion of wanting to keep him around. But at the end of the day, we have to respect the man himself. He's got a wife. He's got children. He's going to be 40 years old next season. That, we got to look out what's for best the man himself. I had a similar conversation when I spoke about Nick Baxter when he stepped away. The same thing for TJ Oshie, that we need to look at these players as the men, not just the players. But Alex Ovechkin's wife, Nastya, sat down for an exclusive interview with AIF.RU's Olga Shablinskaya, and she may have just spilled the beans. In that interview, she said, and I quote, Alexander still has a contract for a year, so we will play the next season and then fly back to live in Moscow to our homeland. We will stay in Russia. Yes, unquote. I don't think that that is ambiguous at all. I think that she has said exactly what she thinks, and I think that she knows how her husband is thinking. She knows that Ovi's not going to come out and say, next season is my final season. That just wouldn't look good optically. I think that he wants to be a team player. And what is best for being a team player is to not tell everyone that, hey, next season is going to be my final season. The quote was translated and shared by the Hockey News Hub on X. And look, this is the clearest public indication that I've seen that we've had that Ovechkin could be done after next season. I've said it. It has been my belief all along. But then, the whole thing that happened yesterday where that accidental email, accidental in quotes, that was sent out to the season ticket holders that was quickly retracted, that I think it's known. And I think that if you are a person that is a fan of the Capitals or follows the team and you kind of have your finger to the wind, you know it. And to be clear here, I understand it's difficult to move on from Alex Ovechkin, a guy that totally revolutionized hockey in the district. I get that. But we have to look out what is best. Like I said, for Ovi the man, we had to let go of Backstrom and Oshie and Carlson. No doubt at some point here that we have to look out at what is best for the player. Now the Caps tried to walk this back. Their PR team said a leaked email from their corporate sales department, which claimed the 25-26 season would be Ovi's last, was a mistake. They said no official decision has been made. And I think that, the PR, just like it sounds like, that is their job to kind of rein in these kind of comments until the organization is ready to formally come out and say, as a matter of fact, that this is the case. But you take a look at it, even though they walked it back, where there's smoke, there's usually a fire, especially when it's coming from his wife. And like I said, Alex Ovechkin can make his own decisions. If you flip the script on this and Ovechkin said that his wife was done doing what she's doing, some people would say, let her speak for herself. But in this situation, I think that, Ovechkin has probably shared his thoughts with his wife, of course, and she kind of knows the heart of the man and where his head's at. And at the end of the day, I respect his decision. She also added this past season took a toll on him. The weight of chasing Gretzky's record was a real burden. She said, quote, he didn't show it, but I understood how hard it was for him, unquote. And, the pressure that was on him, and he found clever ways of trying to deflect the pressure that was on him, that he would say things like, I don't care about catching and passing Gretzky. What I care about is this team winning another cup, which I think there is some truth to that. But of course, he cared about breaking that record. But I think that weighed heavy on him. And I think in a lot of ways, just him accomplishing that took a tremendous weight off his shoulders. Now, to be clear here, my thoughts on it are, as how it always has been, is that I think that had Alex Ovechkin not caught and passed Wayne Gretzky under his current contract, that I think the possibility is there that he would have signed an extension. I just don't think that there is a lot of things, keeping him out there. Some people have speculated that maybe he is going to chase down 1,000 goals. But at 40 years old, and say he signs a 2-year contract extension, chasing down that is more and more difficult. And so that's what we have to look for. He is in a good position. He is, right next to scoring 900 goals. And let's just be happy for what he has done in general. But Ovi himself on breakdown day talked about it, I guess I would say somewhat reluctantly. He tried to take a humorous tone and was a bit coy. He said he joked about playing for Hershey in the AHL playoffs, said, quote, I have to pass the skating test, unquote, to make the roster at 40, but didn't commit one way or the other. Again, this is not a surprise. This has been a thought. And if you listen to this show on a regular basis, I have not wavered from it, that it has been my belief all along that this next season will be his final season. There was a caveat before he caught Gretzky that perhaps, he would want to sign an extension. But now that that's in the rearview mirror, it only makes sense. But now what about his future after the NHL? There is also the distinct possibility that he joins the KHL for one final season. That fits with the script of what his wife, Nastya, said, that they plan on going back to Russia. Well, the KHL is in Russia, so that very well could be that he plans to bookend his career. Again, I would also wouldn't be surprised if he chose not to play another season in the KHL. So here's the question: are we heading towards an Ovechkin farewell tour? If you're asking me, you want to see Ovechkin, you want to see him in person, get your tickets next season. I expect him to be a man of his word and to play next season. But again, next season for me, and just the common thought out there, will be his final season. If this is truly his final season next season, you better believe the Capitals are going to lean into it. From marketing to ticket sales to in-arena tributes, it'll be one of the biggest storylines in hockey. Yes, and that is my thought on it. I would say that a caveat to that is if it's known, right? If we know that it's going to be his final season, what if he doesn't say until after next season is over? So I think that the marketing department, of course, would like to take advantage of that, but we don't know if that's a certain thing that he might not, like I say, tell us till the season's over. But the one thing I know, let's be happy that we have had Ovechkin on this team as long as we have, and let's just be happy for the future that he will have. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Ivan Miroshnichenko's breakout season, and does he have what it takes to make the roster? I'll discuss straight ahead. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Listen, our hometown team, the Wizards, is not playing in the playoffs, or maybe your hometown team, your home state team isn't playing. But if you want to have vested interest in the NBA playoffs, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, they got that much more excited. So, new to FanDuel, it is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in this second segment here, we're talking the future of Ivan Miroshnichenko. I have dubbed him before as Alex Ovechkin 2.0. And what are some of the things that we know about Ivan Miroshnichenko and his history is that the Capitals took a flyer on a guy that had Hodgkin's lymphoma, a guy that when visited by the team staff, Ross Mahoney, he was so skinny that the jeans were hanging off of him, during treatment. When it went into remission, he terminated his KHL contract, came over to the United States, had an opportunity to play with the Capitals and with the Hershey Bears, and he is on what I'm going to call a steady upward trajectory. I think it is almost absolutely certain that he makes it to camp, of course, but I think there is a distinct possibility that Ivan Miroshnichenko is a part of the Capitals next season. He is a part of the next wave of Caps. As we talked about in this show, Alex Ovechkin retiring at some point. John Carlson, we saw Backstrom and Oshie step away. That it is going to be a change. Tom Wilson is the captain in waiting, and it's time to usher in these new players. We saw Ryan Leonard join the team. I also think there's a distinct possibility that Andrew Crystal joins the team next season, rather, that it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. But what we saw from Ivan Miroshnichenko was his game grow more than when he first joined the league. When he first came over from Russia over to the United States, it wasn't a seamless transition, I guess I'm going to say, but what we saw from him in Hershey has been steady growth. So let's dive into the latest with Miro in this second segment here. What a leap he took in year 2 of pro hockey North America with the Bears. Miro put up 23 goals, 19 assists, and 42 points in 53 games. That is a serious jump from his rookie year. And what's behind that? Familiarity, of course, that it is different. The rink size is different. He was getting accustomed to the American style of hockey, and all the subtleties that lie there within. And I think that, one of the things that the Capitals have been, accused of is letting their players overcook in Hershey. They marinate down there sometime too long. Sometimes they get burnt, if you will. But I think for Miro, it was the right thing to do. He has shown steady growth, and that is no doubt due in large part to the development down in Hershey. He also played 18 games with the Caps, showing flashes of elite skill, high-end speed, a quick release, and the kind of offensive instincts the teams needs to inject into its top 9. Now, that's the question, right? Is where does Miro slot in? I guess it remains to be seen what happens this summer, more specifically on July 1st. Who stays, who goes, who are the new players that are brought in, what young talent internally really steps up. In the Calder Cup playoffs, he added 5 points in 8 games before Hershey bowed out in round 2. When asked in his exit interview, Miro said, and I'm paraphrasing, quote, "Last year I was young. I made a lot of mistakes. This year, less mistakes." And I think that's all we can hope for from him, is that these are young players. And I know that with a lot of the young talent, especially like Ryan Leonard, we see what they did at Boston College, and we think that it is going to be just a direct shot from, the Boston College straight up to the NHL, from the ground up to the sky. Not always the case. I think that sometimes that's the case with the natural instincts. But if you take a look at Macklin, Celebrini, you take a look at Bedard, these kind of guys that, are considered elite talent, you've seen their struggles as well. So sometimes these guys, and I'm not putting Miro in the same category as those players, but you know what I'm going to say? I still think Miro's an elite talent. Sometimes these younger players just take a little bit longer to develop. And he's maturing on and off the puck. That was some of the things that he was guilty of before. And the coach praised his play in all 3 zones. And most importantly, he believes he's ready to make a full-time NHL jump. And I'm here to tell you, I agree. Again, everything is subject to change. I would like to look into a crystal ball and say 100% for sure. But just what I'm saying based on his developmental trajectory, I think he's ready. I think that, if he continues to work on it and has a really strong camp, it's going to be an interesting team. Who is going to be on this team? Big questions, right? So I think that we are going to see, some of this young talent that we've heard about for years finally get their opportunity and finally make good on that. You could put in that same conversation Henrik Slop-Here. You could put in that same conversation Bogdan Trineyev. That this young core down in Hershey, some of those players are bubbling up and ready to come up to the next level. But you take a look at it. There are spots to be won this fall, and Miro could step right into a middle 6 role. Maybe next Dubois or McMichael, maybe on a third line with an upside. We don't know. Where's McMichael going to end up? Is he going to be the third line center? Is he going to be the wing? There's a lot of question. There's a lot of balls in the air, shall we say. But I think that Miro has a distinct possibility of cracking the roster. Like I said, other names in the mix are Bogdan Trineyev, who's got size and upside too. But right now, Miro has the inside track. And I think it's time as Capitals fans to get hyped about Miro making his forever home on the Capitals next season. I'm excited. I really like his game, and his game and his lifestyle and his attitude is not to accept any setbacks. that if there are any setbacks put in front of him, he's going to crush them down and move on to the next one. He is one of the brightest young talents in the pipeline. Believe it. If the Caps are serious about a youth movement post-Ovi, Miro's development is absolutely critical. And, I think that what we saw from him last year was good. What we saw from him playing in a longer sample size down in Hershey was absolutely great. I am excited about the future of Miro. And like I said, no doubt he will make camp, and no doubt I think there is a really great chance, shall we say, let me retract that. There is a really good chance he makes the roster next season. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Connor McMichael and Martin Fehérváry and how Chris Patrick doesn't want to make the same mistake that the Oilers made. What do I mean? I'll discuss straight ahead. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. In segment 3 here, we're going to talk about the future of Connor McMichael and Martin Fehérváry. Connor McMichael, a guy that saw his game grow by leaps and bounds this past season, due in large part to what I said is having Pierre-Luc Dubois as his center, in the confidence, I guess is what I'm going to say, that Spencer Carberry put into him is ultimately why Connor is in the position that he's in. Marty Fehérváry, we saw the impact that he has on this team, and we saw the impact of him not in the lineup, that when the Capitals were in the playoffs and they could really use a guy like Marty when he was injured, his loss out of the lineup was really felt. So let's dive into that and how it's my belief that I think Chris Patrick should do the right thing and sign these guys up to extensions this summer. Two major names become eligible for extensions on July 1st. Connor McMichael and Marty Fehérváry both are RFAs after the 25-26 season. So to just break that down, restricted free agents, not unrestricted free agents. But GM Chris Patrick made it clear the Caps want to lock these guys up now and avoid offer sheet drama like what happened to Edmonton last summer. There's going to be changes, and, there might be some big additions. There might be some big trades that take place this summer. And is there the possibility that Connor McMichael or Marty Fehérváry could get traded? Yeah, there is. I mean, if the Capitals want to take that big hack that they've talked about, there is the possibility. But the optics of it is that Chris Patrick and the Capitals organization want to sign these guys to extensions. Now, here's what went down with the Oilers, if you're not familiar. They lost both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway to offer sheets from the Blues, from the St. Louis Blues. They couldn't match. Lost two former first rounders for a second and a third round pick each. That is the agony of defeat for the Oilers. And you can understand the comparisons made to that organization that, hey, we don't play in a bubble. There are a lot of other teams out there that have also noticed how great Connor McMichael and Martin Fehérváry play. So it's not like they're married to this team, and, they want, security as well. McMichael and Fehérváry know that they can get a good deal pretty much anywhere they want in the NHL. So I think it would be wise not to squander the opportunity. Connor McMichael, like I said, career numbers, 26 goals, 31 assists, 57 points, played all 82, proved he's a top 6 center or wing. And on breakdown day, he said he wants to be in DC long term. Again, we've heard this. I believe it. I guess I believe it. But, we heard the same thing from different players. You're not going to ever say, yeah, man, get me out of here. But, not trying to take a conspiratorial dive here. I think that Connor McMichael is happy with the Capitals organization, and I think he has thrived here. And you take a look at Marty Fehérváry as well. Rear guard, reliable, smart, physical, set career high in assists, 20 points, 25, logged big minutes. And we need that. As John Carlson, who routinely plays 23 plus minutes a night, but what we saw in the playoffs was diminished returns. They need a guy like Martin Fehérváry to eat up those big minutes. He's a rock on the blue line. So what's next? Patrick and the front office will likely need to extend them this summer. And if you want to project numbers, McMichael could land a deal at 4.5 to 5.5 AAV, 5 to 6 year deal. That's kind of the standard going rate. Fehérváry, maybe 3.5 to 4.5 AAV, depending on the term. And getting them done early for the Caps cost certainty and avoids drama next summer. It is a smart business decision. Again, you don't want to wait until the final moment. The same reason why you don't want to wait till the final moment to study for your test. Get these things done, kind of get the lay of the land, how this team is structured, and then you don't have these unknowns come the offseason. But other RFAs, Alexiev, Lapierre, Rabinski, Dubé, Gibson, and Bjorklund all are pending RFAs, but McMichael and Fehérváry are front burner decisions that need to be made. Bottom line, the Capitals need to lock up their young core. The old core, the old Rock the Red era is getting old and ready to retire. Some of them already have. This is how you stay competitive as your veterans age out. We do not want to do what the Pittsburgh Penguins did, where they were a little bit late to the dance and they waited a little bit too long to switch things up. And a team that historically played really great hockey was near the bottom, or I think at the bottom of the Metro. So you take a look at it. I think the Capitals are usually proactive. We saw what Brian McClellan did last summer. I expect Chris Patrick to do the same thing. So big questions for the Capitals, things that need to get taken care of. But, some of those I want to prioritize a little bit more. Of course, McMichael, Fehérváry, and some of those players that I mentioned there, I guess I would be fine seeing what is behind door number 2. This is going to be a busy summer. When, it could be during free agency. It could be around the draft. But keep it right here to Locked On Capitals, as I will have you guys covered all summer long. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL, as they have you covered 5 days a week, available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.